Hey, it's John Nolan here. Listen, I could tell you that gas prices are going up, food prices are going up, inflation's going up, but you already know that. When it comes to important life decisions in my life, I pay close attention to my intuition and to the science that I'm getting. And lately, more and more people from the food industry, trucking industry, packaging industry have been telling me, listen, a big crash is coming. We're going to have huge food shortages, and I pay attention to that. People are moving out to the country. They're growing their own food. That's exactly what everyone needs to do, but also prepare in the short term, have emergency food ready. That's why we partnered with My Patriot Supply. So if you hop over to preparewithinspired.com, you can save $150 on a 3-month emergency food supply kit today. We just encourage you to look it up. If this is the right thing for you, do it now. Go over to preparewithinspired.com. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for joining us today. And today we're going to dive a little bit into the trans movement, into the transgender. And because it is Pride Month, at least that's what they've been telling me, this might be an appropriate time to look a little deeper. Now let me say one thing from the get-go. We are all about freedom. We're all about individual possibility and expression. However you wish to live your life is up to you, as long as how you live your life doesn't harm anyone else or their property. Then to us, that is freedom. So we have no judgment about that. We accept everyone for who they are. That's the disclaimer, very important to us. But when we look at, for example, what is happening this month, and I'm going to speak more to the United States where I have a very direct perspective, it is becoming insanity, and we need to ask ourselves, why is this pushed so hard? And it is pushed on the backs of people, what they perceive to be the LGBTQ and other letters plus community. It is being done on the backs of those people who are a lot of times unknowingly carrying a completely different agenda. And this agenda that we're seeing now, where we see drag queens dancing in schools, and where we see a propaganda of transgenderism, where people are literally pushing this idea into younger and more impressionable minds. And of course, we need to start from a basis, something that is the base concept of a family, to understand where this journey is supposed to go and what the real sinister agenda behind it is. Now here's the thing. The base concept in nature is a family, is a union between a man and a woman. It is the only way how our species can reproduce, and it's the only way how our species can truly, as who we are, survive. I'm not talking about the artificial means of procreation, which are not equivalent. They are not the same. They do not have the same outcome as the natural union between a man and a woman and the sacred institution of a family that a man and a woman create. We are today in a day and age where saying this might put you in a box, or you're being somehow labeled as some sort of extremist, when you, like me personally, support families and the institution of the family and the natural community of the family, and how important this is. In every culture that is known to me, in every indigenous culture that I've studied, there was always homosexuality, and there was always the phenomenon of people being born and feeling that they were more attached to the other gender. So men feeling very feminine and females feeling very masculine. For example, Russell Means, in his book, When You Forget the Name of the Clouds, You Lose Your Way, he wrote about how what we today call transgenders, or people that felt, for example, men that felt very feminine, were respected and accepted in the culture. They were not alienated, and thankfully so, which is a beautiful thing. But what we're seeing today is a push. This is not about acceptance anymore. This is not about anyone's rights. This is a push to break young minds into believing that there is no natural will, that there is no divine will, and that anything and everything can be altered, that somehow people, because they've found a way to change appearances, they found a way to artificially change things in your body, somehow they have become the gods, and they get to decide who you are and who you're supposed to be. Because aside from people who are naturally born this way, aside from people who feel this way naturally, and you can tell this, there are a lot of people who have developed through the propaganda and through a lot of other things that are connected to their family energy, which family constellation therapy goes into deeply, have developed simply a disorder that makes them move into some form of psychosis. This needs to be addressed as a mental illness and not celebrated as a new ideal. And the reason why this is being celebrated is not to promote the rights of all people. It is to move us into a moralless belief system where we think that humans and transhumanism, so basically the next step of not just altering your gender will be altering your complete beingness with infusing artificial intelligence. And this is where this is really moving to. The reason why the quote-unquote elites cabal, this evil cult, is promoting this so heavily is because they want to move people into an artificial world where transhumans, so humans that are part human, part robot, or part hybrid, will become the norm, and then eventually post-humanism, where the natural human organism will not exist anymore because it will be replaced with the artificial thing. This is really where they're moving. It has nothing to do with the LGBTQ community in itself. Nothing whatsoever. And this cult does not care about humanity itself. This cult doesn't have the ability for consciousness and soul like we do. These dark entities don't have it. So they occupy the minds and the bodies of weaker people to influence them more and more and more and more. And literally what they want to do is import our consciousness into an artificial hive mind so they can control this whole thing and literally take over consciousness and soul. This is the idea, as insane as it sounds, but these entities have come up with it and they're pushing this. And you can see someone like Yuval Noah Harari, who is a historian, a researcher, an AI fanatic, and a senior advisor of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. And when you listen to how he speaks and what he says and how lost this soul really is, you will just shake your head. But these are the influencers of this push and this culture. So, let's look at a few clips from Yuval Noah Harari here.
You have a lovely passage where you say, looking at the world today, God seems to be making a comeback, but this is a mirage. God is dead. It just takes a while to get rid of the body.
In the first book of Genesis, what God does is to create animals and plants and humans, and we now want to gain this ability to ourselves to manufacture animals and plants and humans. And we even go beyond God. I mean, even if you believe in the Bible, the only thing the God of the Bible managed to create is organic beings. He managed to create the cows and the tomatoes and the giraffes and the humans, all organic. Now we try to go beyond the God of the Bible and create inorganic life, something he never managed to do, either according to the Bible or according to biology. For 4 billion years, all of life was organic, and now we want to create inorganic life. That's really, divinity is not far enough to describe what we are trying to do. I think the most interesting place today from a religious perspective is Silicon Valley. My bet is this is where the new religions of the 21st century are being created, will be created, and these will be kind of techno-religions, religions based on technology, religions that make all the old promises of Christianity and Judaism and Hinduism and so forth. They will also promise happiness and prosperity and justice and even eternal life, but here on earth with the help of technology and not after we die with the help of superhuman beings. And in a way, I would say that we've already seen the first big techno-religion in history in previous century, and this was socialism.
This is a head-shaking thing for me, but it's more than that. We really need to collect ourselves and move away from this guilt, shame thing that we need to accept absolutely everything. And this is literally going into kindergartens, going into schools, and indoctrinating young minds with sexual practices and talking about anal sex and talking about all these things with kindergartners. This is doing harm. This is harming our children. It is insanity and madness, and it is part of this agenda, and it is becoming ever more intense. And so we need to collect ourselves and finally recalibrate our moral compass here and see that accepting someone's lifestyle doesn't mean that we can allow for this to become a new norm by constant propaganda, by constant infusing with these ideas. It has nothing to do with it. So when we learn from each other, we talk to each other, we share information, wisdom, and knowledge, all people should always be at the table and have a say in it. But this is literally, with how it's in the book, this is propaganda, and this is a re-education, not into acceptance, but into submission and into giving up what makes you you, what makes you a man or a woman or whatever you think you are, and it is to submit to a elite, if you will, to submit to a direction that goes against what makes us us, what makes us human. So this is a much bigger picture, and unfortunately so many people, in their desire to please others, in their desire to be accepting on all levels, are misguided as they're carrying this agenda for these transhumanists to the finish line without even understanding it. So what I'm saying is, step out of this mainstream crap, step out of this versions and ideas of what they're putting out there, and simply become human again. Become a man and a woman or whatever you think you are again, and talk to people. Be a loving, kind, giving being rather than carrying an agenda that you don't know the origins of. And we can now see how this is playing out. This has gone way, way, way too far. And again, it's not about acceptance. It's about pushing a completely different thing. And what they want is to simply discredit God. They want to discredit our humanity. And they want to show us that we're nothing more than animals. And we can be manipulated, we can be gene edited, or we can be done away with altogether, because now artificial intelligence apparently allows for that. We won't support this, and we stand for love, for kindness, for freedom, for joy, for all of this, for community, for family, and we stand for individual freedom to live and express yourself the way you desire to. But when it begins to become hurtful, not feelings, but when it begins to actually hurt others physically, when children of 7 years are being now practically forced by their parents into a gender change, and they're being exposed to this, and they're taking hormones, 7-year-olds, then we are so on the wrong path. We need to find a return to a more balanced, to a more creator-oriented view. We need to go within in the seventh direction. Seventh direction is within, and really collect ourselves and come into balance again. Thank you so much for joining me today, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. We appreciate you, we love you, and we will be here again back with you very, very soon.